Baltimore Ravens lose to the Cleveland Browns 29-24 last week. And with the Denver Broncos coming to town, is it time to panic for Ravens fans? We touch on that and more next on Ravens Talk. Ravens fans were right. Trap game city for the Ravens as they fall to the Cleveland Browns. Fall to 5-3 and look up at the Pittsburgh Steelers sitting atop alone in the AFC North. Welcome to Ravens Talk. I'm your host, Njoku. As you mentioned, the Ravens do lose to the Cleveland Browns. We're touching that game. Talk about the Ravens trade acquisition. If you're a Ravens fan, I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. We speak on that trade and maybe future trades on the horizon for the Ravens. Touch on a few injuries that may have an impact on the upcoming game. And that upcoming game we will get to, the Denver Broncos and the Ravens going head-to-head on Sunday. 5-3 teams locked in. Who's going to leave 6-3? Who's going to fall to 5-4? We'll find out soon. But first, Ravens fall to the Cleveland Browns. We touched on it a little bit on the show. I will say that. I mentioned the Ravens are dealing with the quarterback who they haven't seen in the Browns uniform, and Winston. Play calling duty shifting from Stefanski to Ken Dorsey. A defense that, in my opinion, is top 10 in the league, headlined by Myles Garrett, who, in my opinion, is one of the better defenders that we've seen ever in this sport. Previous defensive player of the year. So a lot going against the Ravens, a lot having to go right for the Ravens. But I thought with all of that, there was no way they were going to lose to the Browns, right? Ravens only lose to superb passing attacks, superb receivers. Defense can handle that. Well, no, there's a lot of things that went against the Ravens. For starters, Marcus Williams, he hasn't played well. He hasn't played the greatest, but he's a starter for a reason. Not much in talent that can come and take his place. Ardarius Washington did a great job, but Eddie Jackson struggled mightily in that game, and his absence is a head scratcher. We'll touch on that in a little bit if we have time, but no Marcus Williams means the safeties are going to have to step up. A lot of plays left out there on the field for the defense. A lot of plays. And we talked about how the Ravens have had issues with communication. I didn't see a lot of communication issues in that game. There were some blown coverages, a little bit potential for some blown plays because of lack of communication. I know there are a few times where the Browns were able to snap the ball prior to the Ravens defense getting set. But for the most part, the Ravens played a decent game. It was their game plan that left me scratching my head. Now, we talked about it. Ravens haven't dealt with Ken Dorsey as their OC this season. They don't have a lot of tape on Ken Dorsey calling plays. Not a lot of tape of Winston as a Brown targeting those receivers and Judy and Njoku. So definitely a different set of circumstances for the Ravens to overcome, especially for a defensive coordinator in Zachary Orr, who was in his first try in calling those plays. So I saw a lot of head-scratching decisions for the Ravens, most notably in the end of the game when the Ravens ran cover 0 6 straight times. I mean, they were begging the Browns to shoot a shot into the end zone. Now, I think that shot in the end zone should be taken with a grain of salt because I believe the Browns are already in field goal range. And had the Browns not done that, I think they would have probably kicked the game-winning field goal as the time expired. So not too much in that aspect that I'll lay on the defense. But for the most part, that set of series of plays let me know that the Ravens were not having success getting to the quarterback, and they weren't. Winston had loads of time in the pocket to the point where Zachary Orr had to call those blitzes, had to bring a 6th or 7th guy in to try and disrupt the passing attack. And that left corners in one-on-one matchups, and they were not prepared. A lot of times these corners were 6, 7, 8, 9 yards away from the receiver, and you're just begging for double moves and comeback routes to just keep the game going. The Ravens didn't think that the Browns could sustain long drives on their defense, and they were wrong. Time of possession, and I don't have the numbers at my disposal, but the Ravens did not control the time of possession the way in which they would in the past. I think the Browns just had a good game. And earlier in the week, I was very concerned with the defense and concerned with the way this team was churning, but a lot of credit has to go to the Browns. You got to give credit to the Browns. Now, Are the Browns better than the Ravens? No, not at all. But for that game, for 60 minutes, I think you got to tip your hat to the Browns, what they had to overcome. 1-16. We talked about it last week. Very dangerous team. Nothing to lose, really, or everything to lose in some respects. They needed that win more than anybody. It just looked like the Browns wanted it more. And all of the problems with the Ravens defense were amplified. And it's not all on the defense. We'll get to the offense in a little bit, but definitely glaring issues with the defense reared its head. The Ravens dropped 4 picks, including the game winner by Kyle Hamilton. So despite all of that went against the Ravens, all of the circumstances that led to that defeat, the Ravens had 4 chances to really keep the game out of reach. My score prediction was a 2-score win by the Ravens, and a couple of those interceptions go the Ravens' way. That's probably what's happening. So definitely concerning if you're a Ravens fan, the trajectory of this defense. We'll touch on that as we preview the Broncos game, but I won't put it all on all on the Ravens this time. The Browns played decent football. Their game plan was sound, that we're not going to be intimidated by the Ravens. Ravens have to get to the quarterback, having difficulties doing that. And that led to the Browns winning. On the opposite side, the Ravens offense failed to put up 30 points. And we're starting to see with this team that if the Ravens don't put up 30 points, they're probably not going to win, at least through the first 8 games of the season. The Browns did a great job doing things that, again, we talked about it last week. We want to see, is Myles Garrett going to mimic what we saw from the Chiefs, what we saw from the Raiders in terms of being in different positions, doing various moves, not being so, predictable at the line of scrimmage, forcing these linemen to think, to move quicker than they had to. Daniel Falele has struggled after the first 2 or 3 games of the season. He turned the corner, but it seems like he's regressing a little bit. And that Myles Garrett matchup with that right side of the line really reared his ugly head. Not just Falele. Rosengarten struggled too, and he has struggled in the last couple of weeks. I think he might be dealing with a little bit of an injury. Not 100% sure on that, but I can see that the right side of the line is starting to regress. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things because of how well Lamar is playing and how well Todd Monken is scheming this offense away from that side of the line on critical downs to really take the pressure off of that inexperienced portion of the line in these games. So definitely something to watch out for as you get to these games with these top tier pass rushers coming to town. I said I wouldn't give my full apologies to John Harbaugh until I've seen this team play against premier pass rushers and have defensive coordinators that are good at scheming the holes in this offense. And we haven't seen that since that Raiders game. We saw a piece of that on Sunday against the Browns, and the Broncos are up next. Steelers are upcoming. So we're going to get a good idea of what this line is really about. And starting to hear some clamors for Falele to be removed and potentially putting in Ben Cleveland again. I'm hearing those Ben Cleveland chants a little bit throughout social media. So definitely the offensive line has their work cut out for them. It's very easy to criticize a team after a loss. I'm not going to take that route. I'm going to lean towards there's a bump in the road. Ravens have lost against weaker opponents in the past. Ravens fans told me this prior to the game. I would not listen. I was saying, you know what? Scheme is scheme. The Ravens are the better team. They'll find a way to win. But this seems to be more of a psychological issue, maybe even a coaching issue. If you want to go there, I will hold off on that portion of criticism for now. But yeah, the Ravens have been here before. The Ravens in 2012 lost to the at the time Washington Redskins, now Commanders, and they still won a championship. Last year, the Ravens lost to the Colts and the Browns and the Steelers. So it's not like it's out of the realm of possibility that this Ravens team cannot go on a run and still dominate like they did in previous seasons and still fight for that championship. So take this loss with a grain of salt, but also understand that there are things in the Ravens game that can be exploited by these teams. And unless the Ravens continue to improve, may not go the way many expect this season. When we come back, we'll touch on the trades that have happened in the NFL, one specifically for the Ravens, and what maybe expect as the trade deadline approaches. Next on Ravens Talk. Welcome back to Ravens Talk. Ravens do lose to the Browns, unfortunately, fall to 5-3. And with that loss, the Ravens decided to make some moves. One move in particular, the Ravens trade for Deontay Johnson. The Ravens give up their 5th round draft pick. Carolina Panthers return in kind with the 6th-round draft pick and coveted Deontay Johnson. If you're a Ravens fan, you definitely remember Deontay Johnson for his days in Pittsburgh. A lot of Pittsburgh Steelers fans have been chirping on social media about how he was as a receiver. Not very complimentary of his mental as far as being a team player, and I get that. A lot of receivers are divas. We had a diva ourselves in Hollywood Brown during this time in Baltimore, though it wasn't as noticeable on the field as it was off the field. But Ravens do acquire Deontay Johnson, and I do like the move. In terms of 11 personnel, which is 3 receiver sets, nobody runs less 11 personnel than the Baltimore Ravens. Now, a lot of that is scheme. Ravens are very dangerous in that 12 personnel and sometimes even 13 personnel, but I like this move. The Ravens are going to find themselves in situations because of this defense where they're down sometimes, and if they want to get back on the scoreboard quickly, they're going to need to run a lot more 3 receiver sets. Deontay Johnson, one of the greatest separators in terms of route running in the league. So couple him with Zay Flowers and Rashod Bateman, and you have another potent wide receiver room for the Ravens to deal with, for Lamar Jackson to deal with. I know a lot of fans in the past have said the Ravens don't surround Lamar Jackson with talent. That can no longer be said. You got Deontay Johnson, you got Zay Flowers, Rashod Bateman, Isaiah Likely, and Mark Andrews, not to mention Derrick Henry, Keaton Mitchell, who's likely to come back this week, Justice Hill. You can't ask for more. What else do you want if you're a Ravens fan? So the Ravens are definitely doing their best to surround Lamar Jackson with talent. I think they understand that this defense is not what it was last year. And in order for them to be competitive and win games, they're going to have to score 30 points. Ravens were 7 short of that, 6 short of that last week against the Browns, and that touchdown win would have had them at 31 points at least. So Ravens definitely needed this receiver. I like the move a lot. Let's talk about some other things because the Ravens aren't done yet. We talked about the defense needing some help. Excuse me. Ravens are in dire need of help on defense. I don't think they're done trading yet. In fact, I will be very shocked if the Ravens don't have at least one move left in the tank. They do have 11 draft picks currently. You got to win now. I think this is a great time for the Ravens to attempt to win a championship. Even though the Chiefs are undefeated, they have not looked great. I know a lot of Chiefs fans hate when I talk about the Chiefs and their inability to be competitive, at least in the space of the upper tier teams. I don't think that offense is good enough to win a championship. At least right now, I think their defense is carrying them. The Chiefs have played some decent opponents. Don't get me wrong. First week were the Ravens, who I think, for all intents and purposes, are the best team in the league. Maybe the Lions have something to say about that. For the most part, the Chiefs have played some decent people, decent teams, and they've gotten the job done. They're finding ways to win. But I don't know if that is going to last long heading into December. I know it will last long. Solid run game, solid quarterback play, solid defense. The Ravens do not have a solid defense, at least when it terms of defending against the pass. They are number 1, I believe number 2 right now in terms of stopping the run, but they need some help. And I don't think they need cornerback help. I don't think they even need safety help. Maybe safety help. If you think about it, maybe the safety play can improve, but they need to get to the passer in the worst way. They have to get to the passer. Now, the Ravens do have issues on the interior line with injuries. Travis Jones is dealing with an ankle injury. They have Justin Madubuike. Roderick Washington looks like he's going to be able to go for this upcoming game. I think I'm missing somebody off the top of my head, but Britt Urban is dealing with a concussion. Yes, so the Ravens don't have a lot of help on the interior defense, but I think they'll be better served if they held pat for those guys to return and focus on edge rushers. They had Jadeveon Clowney last year. I think he was an integral piece to the success of this defense, and he's off to the Carolina Panthers, the team that could possibly be looking to trade a guy or two away. So something to keep an eye on with that. They need a pass rusher. They need a pass rusher badly. Does it have to be a Max Crosby type? We'll love a Max Crosby type. Not a lot of those in the league, and they ain't cheap, but there are guys out there that won't cost you a day 1 or even a day 2 pick for you to get on your team and help you compete for a championship. So I will be very, very surprised if the Ravens do not bring in the pass rusher prior to the deadline. I think you can automatically even book it. The Ravens have an upcoming game after the Broncos game against the Bengals. The trade deadline will have passed prior to that game. So I think between the Broncos game and the Bengals game, you will see a trade. Don't know exactly who it will be, but you have to put my money on it. I'd say they're bringing the pass rusher because they need one badly. When we come back, we'll talk about injuries. We talked about a little bit with the interior line. There are other guys who were not on the practice field this week. Made their return on Friday. We'll touch on that more next on Ravens Talk.
He'll be ready. I'm not worried about it. He studied all week. He was involved in all the preparation stuff. He knows the game plan. He knows the opponent. He'll be ready to go.
That was John Harbaugh, Coach Harbaugh, talking about Lamar Jackson's availability for Sunday's game. It looks like he will be a go. Ravens were a little nervous. If you were a Ravens fan, at least you were nervous. Harbaugh said that it was a rest day for Lamar Jackson on Wednesday, and then Thursday came and Lamar wasn't there, so we got nervous. 2 days of rest. Typically, in the NFL world, at least up until this season, your guy misses 2 days of practice. Chances of him playing are pretty slim. But Lamar Jackson was the full go on Friday. The injury report says it's a back and knee issue. You don't want your quarterback to have back and knee issues. I'm sure the Ravens were just doing their due diligence, knowing that the Ravens do have an upcoming game after the Broncos game 5 days later against the Cincinnati Bengals. So big time decisions for the Ravens to make in regards to keeping Lamar Jackson away from contact, at least until that Friday practice, which is a little bit of a walkthrough pretty much. It's not really as intense as the Wednesday and Thursday practices for those Ravens fans who aren't privy to that information. So they're taking it easy with Lamar, and you might want to. You've seen the Ravens play these first 8 games. You know this team goes where Lamar Jackson takes them. Of course, Derrick Henry's acquisition is huge. He's been a huge piece of this championship potential for the Ravens, but this team goes where Lamar Jackson is willing to take them. Last year, it was up to the AFC Championship game. You see how far he takes him this year, but got to play if you're going to take him anywhere. So they're doing their due diligence. I like the idea. Rest your guy. You cannot risk Lamar Jackson getting hurt. We talked about the play of the offensive line, especially on the right side. His ability to scramble out of that pocket and buy himself and his team more time, extending plays is vital to the success of this offense, which ranks number 1 in almost every major statistical category. So keep him healthy. There are other injuries out there. Keaton Mitchell, on the other side, the good side, full participant for 3 days straight, which means the speedy running back likely to be activated. If not for this game, the Bengals game. I think he's going to be activated for this game. You got fresh legs for these next 2 games, along with Justice Hill and Derrick Henry. That is opponent attack. You talk about thunder and lightning. Thunder and lightning may not be enough. Snap, crackle, and pop may be more like it. These guys are going to be running through you or running around you. I am very excited to see what this running back committee gets done moving forward. But very good news to see Keaton Mitchell practicing fully. He'll be back. Rashod Ali looking like he may not be able to go, looking like he's a little bit questionable. Brent Urban, another questionable guy. So we'll see. There's a lot of injuries out there. Marlon Humphrey also questionable. Nate Wiggins also questionable. It's looking like, based on John Harbaugh's comments previously early in the week, that those 2 will go. We will find out. But the injuries are coming, and the Ravens are doing very, very well for themselves to mitigate the damage and keeping guys off of the field and maybe missing the game. That's not too critical. I think the Ravens sat Marlon Humphrey and Nate Wiggins. Nate Wiggins was dealing with an illness. Also a bit of a shoulder injury, but for the most part, they wanted to do a good job and keep him out of the game. And I think that will pay dividends later on in the season. I think Nate Wiggins will be a go. If not for this game, definitely the Bengals game, where we know the Bengals can put up some points and they will need all hands on deck. But good news that the Lamar Jackson led Ravens are getting healthy. A little shaky with the Lamar Jackson news, but it seems like it's par for the course. And Coach Harbaugh was correct that just want to rest this guy. Everybody take a deep breath. Exhale. Sigh of relief. Lamar Jackson should be a go for Sunday. When we come back, the Denver Broncos are coming to town. Big matchup after losing to the Browns. The Ravens cannot afford to lose 2 straight. Will they fall? We'll touch on it next on Ravens Talk.
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. Obviously, we want to make sure that we get lined up. I got to make sure I get the call in fast enough for those guys. So it's a combination of those things. But I think that we got a good resolution to those problems, getting the call in fast, keeping things simple, and going out there executing. But obviously it's costing us at critical points of the game. So I got to do a better job, and we got to do a better job of executing and with the communication. And I think that we got a great plan going forward to make sure that we take care of that, because you definitely you want to be able to be lined up to give yourself a chance. If you're not lined up, I mean, that's, you're giving the offense an easy way off the hook.
That was Zachary Orr, defensive coordinator for the Ravens, talking about what they will be doing in order to tighten up those miscues and miscommunications, being unable to get set prior to the snap. So Ravens are working to fix this because they know it's fixable, because they've seen the success of this defense with a majority of their players returning last season. So definitely good news if you're a Ravens fan to hear that the Ravens are working tirelessly to correct the issues of this defense. And a lot of people have said, both nationally and locally, first 8 games without preseason action for a lot of these guys. New DC, a lot of new staff members, mid-tier staff members for this coaching staff. A lot of adjustments. So let's give it time. I'm getting impatient. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm getting impatient. You saw my synopsis and thoughts on the Ravens-Broncos matchup. If you listen to the AFC North Roundtable, if you listen to me on Locked On Ravens, you heard my qualms. But if you didn't, we'll talk about it here. But I have concerns for this game and this team. I gave the defense 8 games. I gave them 8 games, and now it's time to just call a spade a spade. The pass defense is not good. Just not good. And it's really hard to knock the defense completely. No Marcus Williams, no Nate Wiggins, no Marlon Humphrey. That's 3 of your 5 best defensive backs not in action, either due to injury or due to, doghouse rules, I guess, if you want to get to that with John Harbaugh. Whatever the case is, they did not have their full repertoire of DBs at their disposal. So hard not to knock them too much, but your boy's getting impatient. I mean, I can only turn a blind eye to what I see on the film for so long. A lot of miscues, a lot of mistakes. When are they going to get their act together? Will it be this game? Well, let's talk about it. We heard from Zachary Orr, so let's start with the defense. The Ravens are dealing with Bo Nix. Not much of anything. I mean, he's shown that he has the ability to throw the football against NFL defenses, bottom tier NFL defenses, but still, he's starting to improve his ability as a passer. So I'm sure Broncos fans are very happy with that. His last game against the Panthers, who the Ravens recently traded with, showed the Broncos fans out there that there is potential there. Are the Broncos going to do that against the Ravens defense? I can't sit here and say no. You want me to sit here and lie to you? No, I can't do it. Not on the Ravens Talk podcast. We talk Ravens. We're real out here. We're not going to put on the purple shades. No, I got the Ravens insignia behind me, but it's not that type of podcast. I can't sit here and say Bo Nix is not going to have success against the Ravens defense. I will say the Ravens want to have success against their Broncos offense, which is mid at best. Not good. Not good. They need to do a good job. 1, stopping the run, forcing Bo Nix to beat him with his arm, and confuse him. Something that the Ravens fans are the Ravens coaching staff has already said. They're trying to simplify things. They want to simplify things. Obviously, things are getting lost in translation with the Ravens defense, at least from coach to player. So I think the Ravens are going to simplify things and try and force him to beat him. Your receivers are going to have to beat our corners one-on-one. It's probably going to be like a 7-on-7 drill with the Ravens and Broncos. I expect a lot of man-to-man, basic zone stuff. Let's see if you can beat us. The goal for this game for the Ravens, get to the quarterback. Do not give that rookie QB time in the pocket to get comfortable, read the defense, understand what's going on. No. Get after the quarterback. And for Zachary Orr, you can't blitz 6 or 7. The DBs have shown, at least so far, that they cannot be left alone without help for a longer period of time. Of course, we're expecting Marlon Humphrey to be back. We're expecting Nate Wiggins to be back. The level of talent on that side of the ball increases tremendously with those additions. But you can't take the chance. You're 5-3. You're at home. Until you have a sizable lead against this team, you better get to the quarterback and you better play good defense. Do not sell your soul to stop the pass. to rush the passer. You got to count on Dafayoway, Calvin Noy, Matty BK to get to the quarterback on their own without selling your defense short on passing downs. Offense side of the ball, it's going to be a challenge again. The Broncos defense is for real. I know a lot of Ravens fans think, they haven't played anybody, and I can't disagree with you. Broncos haven't played anybody, but this Broncos team is legit. They do have the pieces in place to slow the Ravens down, not stop them. No one's stopping the Ravens offense. Let's just call a spade a spade. You're not stopping Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. You're not. We talked about this back in April. You're not stopping them. But they do have pieces in place to potentially slow them down. What does that mean? Ravens have to get off to a fast start. You're at home, get that momentum, get a 2-score lead, and then the defense can do what they do best. Then they can start utilizing their formations and try and confuse the quarterback. But right now, you're the offense, get the points on the board, get it done early. Don't turn the football over. I know there was a couple of times where it looked like Lamar Jackson was going to turn the football over. A lot of dropped passes by the receivers. Catch the ball if you're the Ravens receivers and get out to an early lead. Once you do that, he's pretty much out of reach, in my opinion. So I do have concerns. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. There are concerning things that I saw from that Browns game that could eke out for the remainder of the season. But if you're a Ravens fan, what gives you solace? The Ravens are continuously working on it. They're not making excuses. I haven't heard Zach Orr make one excuse since he took over as the coach, which is great to see. They're making adjustments. I'm hearing they're doing things in the film study to rectify the slow starts, rectify the lack of communication. So if you're a Ravens fan, optimism can reign, but I'm not going to sit here and say it's going to be all rainbows and sunshine. There are reasons to be concerned. Until the Ravens show me who they are, I had to take them at face value. Whatever they show me, I got to believe it. So right now, I believe the Ravens are a bad defense. It's up to them to prove me wrong. But on the other side, I think the Ravens offense is great. And I think even though the Broncos defense is stout, it may not be enough to stop this offensive attack. The goal for the Ravens offense has to be to score 30 points every single week. It's a lot of pressure on the quarterback, a lot of pressure on Todd Monken, a lot of pressure on those guys on the offensive side of the ball. But that's the world they're living right now until the defense can catch up. When we come back, we'll get final thoughts in the game, predictions, and a little announcement for Ravens fans and fans of the podcast next on Ravens Talk. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with Ravens Talk. Ravens Broncos Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern time game. It's a big game. I think we're underselling a little bit the importance of this game. The Ravens cannot afford to fall to 5-4. The Cincinnati Bengals have a game against the Raiders. Depending on the outcome of that game, this week 10 game Thursday Night Football could go a long way in deciding who wins the division. I am very excited about this Broncos game because I want to see if what I saw from the Browns game is simply a trap game, a little bit of familiarity with the Browns. We always know that the Browns play the Ravens tough. A little bit of history with the Broncos in terms of the Ravens trying to get that streak going with 100 rushing yards in each game. So a little bit of rivalry, a little bit. No love lost between the Ravens and the Broncos. The Ravens, of course, defeating the Broncos in the divisional round of the AFC to get to the championship for their second Lombardi trophy. So a couple of sour fans still there, a little bit of intrigue, but for the most part, this is about can the Ravens bounce back against a rookie QB, an offense that's lackluster, and a defense that's very stout. The story of, in my opinion, will be twofold. The primary issue, can the Ravens stop a cold? Can they stop a nosebleed? Is what I should be saying. Can the offense get things going against a formidable defense? I think the answer is yes, but you can't deny that the Ravens have not yet faced a top-tier defense since week 1. The case can be made that the Ravens did play a Buccaneers team that was decent on defense. The Raiders have them, a little bit of fight in them, but for the most part, the Ravens are going to face a defense for the first time that can really slow you down in the Broncos team. So it'll be interesting to see how the Ravens do. So what are my predictions? As the title suggests, I have been torn between should I side with the Broncos, who show a lot of what the Browns are capable to do on defense, but just multiplied. They don't really have an enforcer like Myles Garrett, so that should give the Ravens a little bit of peace of mind, but their cornerbacks are way better than the Browns cornerbacks, and the Ravens are still able to struggle a little bit against the Browns defense. And on the other side, you got the Ravens defense going up against the rookie QB. I don't care how bad the Ravens defense has played this season. They typically do well against rookie QBs. Just ask Jaden Daniels. Been going back and forth. Now, a little bit of me choosing the Broncos on the AFC North Roundtable for you fans that follow me on all of my platforms. Appreciate you, by the way. Was a little bit of reverse jinxing. I think I picked the Ravens to win against the Browns. It was a clean sweep against the other AFC North opponents. I'm talking a little outside the wheelhouse of Ravens talk, but just to give you an idea of where my head has been in regards to this game, I picked the Broncos to win. I was almost matter-of-factly, I was pretty boisterous in my opinion that the Ravens were going to lose that game. But I've been listening to the fan base. I've been watching the film a little more closely, looking at the ins and outs, the things I've heard from the coaching staff, a couple of guys that are coming back, a couple of trades that have been made. I'm leaning towards the Ravens now. And I made that point at Locked On Ravens, but here and now, Ravens Talk, this is the official show for my voice. So you'll get my 100% opinion on it. I think the Ravens win. I truly believe the Ravens win this game. I think the Broncos defense is formidable, but I don't think they have a Myles Garrett, a Micah Parsons, a Max Crosby type of player on defense. They just play sound football, which is kudos to them. But I think to be successful against this Ravens offense, you need a disruptor, a guy that is going to come in and disrupt the play no matter what you do. The Browns have that. The Raiders have that. The Chiefs have that. I don't think the Broncos have that. No offense to the Broncos fans out there. I just don't think you have what it takes to stop this defense, to hold them to 30 points. Very surprising the Browns were able to do it. In fact, they were a touchdown away from not having that, and the Ravens were in the red zone when they had an opportunity to potentially win that game. So it takes a lot to slow this offense down and keep them to under 30 points. I don't think the Broncos defense can do that. On the other side of the ball, Ravens defense, definitely a lot to be desired, but I think they're going to simplify things. They get Marlon Humphrey back. They get Nate Wiggins back. They're playing Bo Nix, a guy who's shown some promise the past couple of games, but I do not trust him. I don't trust a rookie QB against this Ravens team led by John Harbaugh. No way. I don't think Zachary Rose is going to let Bo Nix, of all people, come into Baltimore and get a win. I just don't see it. I thought, based on the schematics and how the Broncos offense has played at times and the way the defense has played all season, that they have a chance. And I think a lot of my opinions about this game, at least in the early goings of the week, was based on the loss to the Browns. But after analyzing this and looking at it in depth, give me the Ravens. 27-24. If you're a betting man, this game is 9.5. I would not touch that. Give the Broncos a little bit of respect now, but I think the Ravens do get the job done. Give me the Ravens to win it. Before I let you go, I want to touch on a couple of housekeeping items. One, Ravens Talk has reached over 1,000 subscribers. I'm officially a YouTube partner. Thank you to the Ravens Talk community, Ravens flock out there. That's a major reason why Pivotal Moments did not appear on the show this past week. Getting some things ironed out with the logistics with that. I think we're going to go into the live streaming aspect of Pivotal Moments. Give fans a chance to come on the show, talk to me about what I'm seeing on film, maybe some suggestions on plays you'd like to see. I definitely want to be more interactive with the Ravens flock, especially because we're heading into the second part of the season where every game is vital. We want to make sure that we pin down those pivotal moments as we analyze this Ravens team for the rest of the 2024 season. Also, there's a chance that I may not be available for the Ravens-Bengals game, at least before the game. I'll try my best, but there are some obligations I have with other shows. The Ryan Ripken show I may be a part of this week. So if you're a Ravens fan, a Baltimore fan, you may see me on there this week. Also, the AFC North Roundtable will be live streaming on Wednesday, so I have that commitment. And then the Ravens-Bengals game is on Thursday. Might be a little too much on my plate for that, but I will try my best just in case Ravens Talk doesn't appear prior to the Bengals game. I will tell you my prediction. I think the Ravens continue the roll. They get the job done against the Broncos and continue that trend against the Bengals, who looks to be without T. Higgins. He's doubtful for the game against the Raiders, and if they lose that game, they fall to 3-7. That will be, 3-6, and that'll be tough. Tough sledding for the Bengals, and I'm not sure if you're not playing in this game, in a game that pretty much have to win, how much time do you have on yourself to get ready in 3 short days to prepare for a Ravens team that already beat you once at full strength? So I think the Ravens-Bengals game will be another good game, but I think without T. Higgins, this Bengals team will not have what it takes. So expect the Ravens-Bengals game to go down. That's another win for the purple and black. We may have that show, we may not, but just in case we want to cover our bases, we'll definitely have a show to recap the game, and we'll get on live stream and talk to you guys about all the plays that we saw to determine the outcome of both games. That's going to do it for us here at Ravens Talk. Again, I appreciate you guys so much. We are closing in on 36,000 followers on Instagram, doing big things on Instagram. YouTube, we're slowly ticking away. TikTok is booming. Ravens faithful, you guys are doing it big, and I appreciate you guys. Definitely want to reward you guys with more content, more interaction. Definitely want to try my best. I know I'm thinning myself out with a lot of obligations, but we want to make sure that we give out the information as best we can for the Ravens faithful who want to get good information, not just ESPN, not just, the national media. It's TBS, Fox, all those guys who just clickbaiting. We want to get the hard facts and try to be as truthful as possible when it comes to those outcomes and those games and predictions and what have you. And I'm very thankful that you choose me to get some of your news source. I know there's a lot of other great Ravens content creators out there, and I appreciate you guys choosing me to be one of them. That's going to do it for us here at Ravens Talk, and I will see you next week.